This is Karen Miller. I am with Open Door Publications, and this is the first of a series of interviews with authors to talk about their books. In particular, today I want to talk about book launches in the age of post-COVID. So my author today is Jan Detrie, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her two books.
Okay, well, my first book is called The 710 Split, and I started writing this. I had this idea of a professor that was separated from his wife, and he goes to live with this eccentric landlady, and she has a very bipolar dog called Gaston, a poodle, and he is off on adventures, meeting people, trying to figure out what to do with his life. And he gets involved with a plot, a terrorist plot. And eventually he saves the day, but he goes through quite a few mishaps before that. So I did not know this was a cozy mystery until Karen told me it was a cozy mystery. So then I decided I would try my hand at actually writing a cozy mystery from the start. And so I wrote A Glint in Her Ice. This is Vlad again with, I don't know if you can see that, with Vlad again. This time, at the end of the 710 Split, he met this lady, Beatrice, the librarian. And in Glint in Her Ice, he decides he wants to start a relationship with Beatrice. They're going to go on this romantic river cruise with the reward money he got from catching the terrorist. And he's going to leave behind Mrs. Tewksbury, the landlady, and her hapless handyman, Norm, and the dog, and just concentrate on Beatrice. Well, unfortunately, his plans go awry. Mrs. Tewksbury finagles her way on board with the dog and Norm, her handyman, and then they have they get involved in a jewelry heist. And once again, Vlad has to solve this mystery, trying to put things right. Norm is accused of being the thief, and so they all work together to try to rescue Norm. And of course, the dog solves the case because really the dog is the smartest detective in the book.
Okay, so your first book, The 710 Split, I believe that came out in 2019?
2017.
2017. Okay, yeah. Boy, time flies. So it came out in 2017, obviously pre-COVID, and we were all gathering in large groups. And I know you had a book launch at a local bookstore. So tell me first a little bit about that first event and how it worked.
Well, I just put things out in posters in the bookstore, put things in their newsletter, and put a little ad in the Watertown Daily Times where I live. And so we got some publicity going, and we had the book launch. I was on Facebook, and I use Facebook a bit, but not majorly. And we had, I don't know, we had a lot of people. People came from my writers group, and people from where I formerly worked, and people from my church. And so we had quite a few people. We had a lot of people. It was like a steady stream of people. My daughter surprised me flying in from Brooklyn. And so she was there for my launch, which, I was a real surprise. I was not expecting her to show up. And so I felt really like I was on my way. It was, it was good time.
And how many books did you sell at that particular event?
Okay, let me see, $200. I want to say I sold, 25, 20, I don't know. By the time they took their 40% out, they gave me a check for $190. So
you made money. That's a good thing. Okay, and then I know that you were going to other local events in the Wisconsin area when you were doing it, and then you talked to me in the middle of 2019, and you were ready to write book 2, and we had it all ready to launch. and then COVID.
Right, right,
And I really remember that we put the book out, but we got the book out, and you had a book launch scheduled at the same library or the same bookstore. And then it was canceled, and you
right,
had to wait an entire year.
right, right.
So in that year, I know that you were selling the book online on Amazon, and some of the
Mhm.
purchased it online. But then the bookstore contacted you, and now tell us about your late March, early April book launch. And we were still, we were even more quarantined and even more nervous then than we are now in May. But tell me a
Right.
little bit about what happened.
Well, the difference was that I had been vaccinated in twice. You know, I had my two shots, and I was a month past my vaccination, so I felt better about getting out in the public. But I was still a little apprehensive because I wasn't sure who would turn up. I wasn't sure. Hopefully, they would all be masked, but this is Wisconsin, and we don't always follow the protocols. And I was a little worried that no one would show up because we're still in the midst of COVID, you know, and I didn't know how many people had been vaccinated and felt comfortable enough to come in. So there was a lot of apprehension this time round. I was excited the first time round. It's my first book, I'm launching it. And this time round, I'm like, oh boy, I hope somebody shows up. So that was my feeling. And I
So,
hope I can stay safe.
so people did show up. I know
People
that.
did show up.
And
I was surprised. Like the first half hour, I was like, oh, nobody's showing up. And a couple strangers wandered in to get coffee. It's a coffee shop too. And I waylaid them, and I had them, I had my iPad there, and I had them sign up for my newsletter. One of them bought the book, one of them didn't, but I said, my newsletter's free. So just, just sign up. So I was worried, this is going to be a long day. But after that, I had a steady stream of people coming in. I had people again from my church and from my writers group, and I had friends from when I taught. I had even a friend from when I went to high school. She showed up, and so I was really delighted to see her. I hadn't seen her in a couple of years, so I felt it was pretty successful. I didn't sell as many books because I didn't have as many people, but I felt like and we all were masked, so I felt pretty comfortable about getting up and going around and talking to people. So
yeah, you told me you sold about half as many books as you had the
yes,
first time, but
yes,
also people brought books that they had already purchased online. So
correct.
you were still selling over the pandemic, but it's harder to say, you don't get
Definitely
that
harder.
big rush that you get when you have an event like that.
Right.
So things are loosening up. We're able to get out and about more. So my question for you is, what would you do differently the next time? And what would you suggest other authors do if they're planning an event this summer?
Well, I would get publicity. I would start with, I use Facebook more this time round. And then I also emailed my friends who weren't on Facebook. But I think it would, now that things have lightened up a little bit and people can actually get out more, I think you need to really publicize it more in any way you can. I think that would help bring people in. And the bookstore had a newsletter, and they put me in their newsletter. So we were, I was using all the local channels that I could, but definitely try to get the word out. And I sent reminders on Facebook. I had little, my book signing is in a week. I kept doing like little public service announcements that I was going to be at the bookstore.
And there's something else you did I want to make an emphasis on, and that is, you mentioned that you had a way for people to sign up for your newsletter. You had a way to collect people's email addresses and keep in touch with them. And that's
Yes.
something that everyone should remember, is always keep in touch. So to summarize, I think you're saying the best thing to do right now is publicity and more publicity, which works whether it's in COVID, not in COVID, pre-COVID,
Exactly.
post-COVID.
Mhm.
Publicity, publicity, publicity. And but I do understand when it was early on and people just beginning to get back out, you were a little afraid to publicize it too much.
Right, right. I tried, you suggested trying the Bewitching virtual tour, and I did that. Mixed results. I think I had the best results when you gave my first book away free. So I had a lot.
Okay, so free giveaway. We'll have to try that again.
Yeah, yeah. When I finish with my third book, then we can give
Okay,
away.
well, you took the words out of my mouth. Right before we close, tell us the title and a short 1 or 2 minute description of book 3, because we want to hear more about Gaston.
Well, this time I am definitely doing a cozy mystery, and I'm going in the first chapter. It's at a pie eating contest, a county fair pie contest, and the judge drops dead after eating Beatrice's pie, and they find out eventually that she's been poisoned, and Beatrice is this main suspect. So Mrs. Tewksbury and Norm and Vlad and of course Gaston get together, and they decide they are going to, the police seem to be fumbling with the investigation. So they're going to go take matters in their own hand and investigate all the suspects that could be a murderer at the county fair.
And it is called Murder is as Easy as Pie.
Easy as Pie. Murder is
and
easy
it
as
is coming out in early 2020, pardon me, early 2022. Yeah, we can move back in time here. That's great. Early 2022, look for book 3 in the Gaston the Poodle murder series. And give us your Facebook contact or your email, or how can people get in touch with you?
Well, I have my website, and that is janicedetrie.com. And I'm also on Facebook, Janice Detrie. So I have 2 spots, and I do have a newsletter and a blog on my website. So if you've missed my newsletters, I've started this year, and my goal is to do a newsletter each month. If you've missed them, you can catch them on my website.
And you can buy The 7-10 Split and A Glint in Her Ice by Janice Detrie on Amazon.com. So thank you so much. And I'm going to be doing this again in a few days. And the next author will be James Betts. And he is also the writer of a suspense murder mystery. And so I hope everyone joins in to talk to me later. Thank you.
And thank you very much for giving me this chance to talk about my books.
Bye-bye.
Bye.